So Pep Guardiola's Manchester City at the moment, I don't think are very Manchester City, very Pep Guardiola. And I think at a time when they're conceding a lot of goals, could they go back to something like this, which was the treble winning tactic from the 22-23 season, I think it was. So that's what we're building today in Football Manager. The main part is this guy right here, John Stones. Now, most of you out there would probably see that I've got John Stones as a DM in possession rather than an advancing centre-back. That's the main focus on today's video, the movements, the build-up patterns that they had with this 3-2 structure and the issues and because of the in and out of possession we've now got in Football Manager. I actually think the advanced centre-back has kind of come a little bit redundant now because of the in and out of possession. I think the only time really you want to use it is when you're using a genuine back three, and that's not what we're doing today. And we'll discuss why I've got the change as we are. As always, the tactic will be available for the Patreons. Link down in the description. Nearly 200 people in there now supporting the channel, making me more than a part-time creator. So I absolutely appreciate this time of year, Christmas, etc. Thank you very much for your support. Everyone else, don't worry, at the end of the video, we will go through all the in, out of possession roles, team instructions, player instructions for both in and out of possession. And Pep Guardiola. Let me know down in the comments which version is the best City version. I've chose this one because it's an interesting one to do with Haaland as the poacher and the Stones movement and the two wingers not being necessarily speedy wingers that he's had in the past. So yeah, let me know best version of Pep at City. Let me know down in the comments. So what we're trying to build is he had issues throughout the season, conceding a lot of goals, and towards the end of the season, he wanted to go with this 3-2-5 kind of in possession structure and then moving back into like a 4-1-4-1 out of possession. Now, the issue they had was right back, couple of injuries across the season, a little bit of inconsistent form. And what he wanted to do was have John Stones in and moving into midfield like he generally did to create this 3-2 in build-up. I think the 3-2 was there initially they went from a 2-3 build-up. So what they would do is they would bring in the inverted fullbacks at times, to make a 2-3 build-up to sit alongside Rodri. However, Pep's actually the famous press conference where he said Kyle Walker could do it in a 2-3, but he couldn't do this in a 3-2, where it was maybe a little bit more back to goal, need to be a little bit more comfortable in possession. So the solution was to bring John Stones in. And instead of moving him from right back into central midfield, where there's probably a little bit more ground to cover. Also, latter part of the season when they did the change, they were playing in big games, Vinicius Jr., those wingers in the semi-finals, big Premier League games. I think the idea was to kind of bring Kyle Walker or even a Kanji at times, who's a little bit more quicker than what John Stones is, to bring him into those areas. So what he did do was go from a 4 to a 3, bringing in the two fullbacks to play as sort of like inverted fullbacks to a certain extent, but we changed that, as you can see, to give us a little bit better structure in possession, and then moving Stones in. Now, you would say, why is he not an advanced centre-back? And we're going to show you that in today's video. I'm going to start with this tactic, and then towards the end of the video, I'll just tweak it to show you the differences between the two, because for me, it completely changes your build-up, and I do think the advanced centre-back, in certain areas, is more of a rest defense role, and we're going to be doing a video on rest defense very soon. So make sure you like today's video, drop a subscribing so you don't miss any FM26 content. So that's what we've got. The out of possession we're not going to focus on so much today. I think today's football is all about out of possession, whereas today we're really focusing on here. So what we've got is both playing goalkeeper for the Edison, the 3 centre-backs. That will become 2 full-backs as well in out of possession. Rodri, now I've changed Rodri's role. Not too keen on it, to be honest, because I do think he's a little bit more than a DM. But with the limited in possession roles, I wanted to make sure that we didn't have double DM, if that makes sense. And Rodri's kind of that hybrid between deep line playmaker and defensive midfielder. Not always trying to take risky passes, but sometimes will take risky passes. So it's trying to get through I imagine there'll be times where you might want to drop that to a DM. As you can see, he's world class at it. But I just thought so we didn't have 2 roles identical. In here, the channel midfielder, the Reinders role that you're going to see today is the Kevin De Bruyne role. We've got a few play instructions to try and tweak that. And then we've got Silva, who kind of did the Gundogan role, or even Silva at times. Gundogan, I think, second half of the season was awesome at getting in there, in that pocket. We've got them as two CMs rather than 2 cams, because I'm just not liking how the cams are playing at the moment. They're getting way too high. We want these to be high. And we've got a couple of play instructions. We know the AM is going to get high, but I'd like to see him just a little bit deeper, more playing of a high 8 as soon as you put an AM in there, it's pretty much a number 9, 9.5, high 10, and that's not what we want. 2 wingers. I think Riyad Mahrez was still there, but at the same time, towards the end, it was Grealish who was in awesome form on the left, and on the right-hand side, it was Foden. Silva played in the semi-final against Real Madrid at home. Highlights that I watched last night. It was absolutely superb, and in the final. So we've got wingers, but we're not expecting them to be wingers. We're going to do something different with them. And then Erling Haaland, first season at the club, stand up there, be a poacher. And then the out of possession, it's all bog standard. It's all standard, apart from we've just got Rodri screening. Okay, so we've started to see, look, we've had an easy start. We're going to play a game against Sunderland as well, but I just wanted to show you a couple of little clips and highlights of how we've performed. So we've had a decent pre-season. I fiddled with the advanced centre-back a little bit in pre-season, and then, as I said, a couple of things that I'm not entirely happy with, or not happy with, but in terms of what the advanced centre-back gives you. So this is one of my favourite roles. As you can see, John Stones is in the midfield. So this is key. This is one of the main reasons why we have done the DM rather than the advanced centre-back, because he starts as a DM. In possession, he moves straight into there. I'll show you later on in the game against Sunderland that we're going to do, doesn't get forward until the ball progresses into there. So it's a huge difference in terms of how your team builds up. So there we are with our back three. We're using Kusanov as kind of the Kyle Walker role. We've got the wingers keeping their width, look, either side. I think we had Doku on this left-hand side for the game against Crystal Palace, but we're very patient in possession. As you can see, Reinders comes a little bit deep. That's Kevin De Bruyne, so we want him to be a little bit free roaming. I'm loving Gundogan's position, though, the Bernardo Silva role, staying high, forcing Munoz, their right back, into a deeper position, and we're just patient with it. We had Rodri injured, so Gonzalez is doing the Rodri role. We work it. Obviously, you really want Grealish in these 1v1 little opportunities. We've got underlapping runs on, so that's why we get that run. Obviously, as well, he's an attacking midfielder, and then we're in, and De Bruyne scores from a Grealish cutback. Really nice move, so patient. Poor old Erling Haaland didn't even get a touch of the ball. Very briefly, I'll just show you what happens here. So let me just pause it. Right, so there's our back four. So Ake, who's doing the Ake role, is left back out of possession. Diaz and Stones. Stones are dropped in, and there's Kusanov doing the Kyle Walker role. Just watch John Stones when we get possession. This is what we get from the DM. So he's won it, and then he moves in straight away, pretty much straight away anyway. So that's one thing that you really need to look out for. The DM, the difference is obviously the DM wants to get into that defensive midfield position straight away and create that 3-2 build-up. And here we go once again, build-up from start to finish. This time Erling Haaland does get his goal. So straight away, goalkeeper in possession. I think the corner cross came in, caught it from open play. John Stones immediately in. Kusanov's now got the opportunity to dribble forward. Wide centre-backs can do that. And I'm just loving the very much controlled way that we're playing at the moment. So there's John Stones again. Just recycling position. All we're doing is eventually, with the overload that we've got now, it's allowing us to gain yards. Foden jockeys in. Lovely little bit of scale. Reinders in to Haaland. Flooding the box, but what I am liking as well, we've got Kusanov, we've got John Stones, and we've got Gonzalez. Really good rest defence. We haven't got a big hole. Not everybody's going into the box. You know, if the ball's cleared out there, we've got an advantage to recycle. Really happy with how it's shaping up. Rest defence so important. Trying to get my local team to do that in the summer was quite tricky. A couple of central midfielders understanding their roles, so I would make sure that I like a 2. I like a 3-2, to be honest, more than a 2-3. I think that sometimes can open up the channels a little bit for strikers to move into and the centre-half's getting split. But in terms of FM, really happy with that. But what we want to do is maximise Erling Haaland as much as possible with them runs in behind. You know, any kind of counter-attacks. We're not forcing counter-attacks, but any opportunity to get a counter-attack in, we're going to use it. We're going to use his pace as much as possible. So here we go. Win of possession. Eventually, Doku steps in. There is Haaland. Little bit of build-up, but look at the space now. They're in heaps of trouble. Tarkowski's in heaps of trouble. This is De Bruyne as well. Reinders is doing the De Bruyne role for us. Little slide through. In on goal. And scores. Super simple. And then once again, we're pressing. Our press isn't crazy because this is coming to the point now where the presses are dropping off a little bit. Once again, De Bruyne into Haaland. Superb bit of skill. You won't see much from Erling Haaland. If you're playing with a poacher, don't expect him to have good games. If he's not scoring goals, he's not going to have a high average rating. So just be wary of that. I think some people think, oh, the poacher's not doing a job, but you've got to supply the poacher. Always have a look when you're using a poacher. How many touches the ball they're having, how many shots in their XG. That's all you want to kind of judge it off for a poacher, because Haaland will go through games here because of the build-up patterns that we've got, and we've got players like this, Silva, we've got Foden, we've got Cherky on that left-hand side, we've got Doku. They're all going to have the ball. Reinders more than him. So don't be worrying that, your strikers, it's all about creating chances for that man, the poacher. I just very briefly want to show you how it would look if we did it the other way around. So we would, initially this was my plan, and by all means, you could go with this. And I went inside fullback, and I left Rodri there. And then we're going to put the advanced centre-back on John Stones, just so you can see for today. Everyone else left blank. I said, if you want this tactic, by the way, patrons, I will copy this tactic. We'll call it the advanced centre-back one. For me, it just gives you, I think, a different pattern of build-up. And I do think the advanced centre-back is perfect when you're wanting to help with rest defence. And I'm going to cover that next week in a big video. But it's not what we want from John Stones. The idea is that he goes in there, and what Pep wanted was to create that 3-2 build-up. And we don't get it. We will do at times. Let's just see if we can force a scenario. Right, if we get a goal, right, we might be able to force it here. So, where is he? There he is. So let's see what he does. So immediately, look, we're now building with that 4. He's playing as a centre-back. Our 2 inverted fullbacks are kind of in those little half. To be fair, I like the position of that. I like the position of it, because what you could do, if you got Foden to stay wide, you could suck the wingers in a little bit, and it would create a nice little space out here on this far side. So let's see where Donnarumma goes. So he's gone long. Brilliant. Cheers for that, Donnarumma. We can't see the movements now. Right. Let's see what he does now. So he's played the ball himself, and now he moves in. But really, like, now it's okay. So if you want this, you get the kind of the half and half. Once he's moved into there, it isn't as if now, because we're back in build-up, he's going to drop in. So for me, it does kind of work. But if you initially want in that, goal kick kind of natural build-up, you're going to want to use the DM version. He actually gets, look, he's in a really good position there for rest defence still. They don't get too high. So now he's supporting behind the ball a little bit. And for me, it would be the other way round. I think Kusanov would be behind Stones. He's supporting behind the ball. And then when the ball's kind of progressed in, then he starts moving forward. So the inverters, I think as well, the inverted fullbacks give you a very much a supporting thing. You see, for me, Kusanov's probably a little bit wider than what he would be if he was a wide centre-back. I think if it was the other way around, Kusanov would be in behind John Stones here as a wide centre-back and allowing John Stones to go further forward. So all the little changes do change sometimes how your team builds up. Look, he's dropped back in now as Kusanov. Either he's going to be fine out of possession. I just like the structure of the 2 centre-backs, the 2 wide centre-backs, and John Stones in there as that defensive midfielder. There we go. Beautiful goal. And I think it gives you the option as well to play with the DM. John Stones can do it, but there's not many centre-halves that can do that. I think there is a lot of defensive midfielders, though, that can probably then drop in. So, your Casemiros could drop in. Rodri could drop in if you wanted to get a deep line playmaker to play alongside him in the Manchester City team. I think it's easy to find a defensive midfielder that can drop back and do a job out of possession, probably in FM. So that is a little breakdown. We're going to go through the tactics now, in and out of possession. Let's do the in first, the most important. So, Donnarumma, ball playing goalkeeper, no play instructions. Kusanov doing the Kyle Walker kind of role in build-up, coming in as a wide centre-back. Player instruction, we have got dribble more. That's the only one for him. Diaz, ball playing centre-back, just so he plays it nice and short. Wide centre-back for Ake. I've left that blank. I don't necessarily need him. He's not the best. Decent at it, and they will do it. It's kind of a natural when you get this In particular, when teams play with just a lone striker, it gives you lots of room to really get your wide centre-back stepping in. Defensive midfielder for Stones, I've left it blank. Couple of things you could maybe look at. Like, you've already got dribble less on and make fewer runs, which I think is pretty good. Is there anything in there? No, not really. Not for me. If you want him to be really basic in possession, maybe take fewer risks. But not for me. DLP, bog standard. You could go more direct for Rodri if you really want in that creative midfielder, but I do find Rodri was very much possession safe at the same time while being very good at still breaking line, switching of play. So I think the standard gives you a nice little mix. Silver roll, just a standard AM, nothing left, nothing on there. Reinders, this is kind of the Mazzala roll that we want because we knew De Bruyne liked to get into wider areas, so we've got quite a few ones in here. More direct passing, crossing to the far post, Haaland at the back stick, taking more risks, stay wider and roam from position. All right, so he really roams out into these wide areas. He may even drop into these areas and helping a little bit of like wider progression build up. Absolutely love it. On this side, winger for like the Silva/Foden role, roam from position, cut inside with the ball. That's it. We're not going to overdo it with forward runs and dribbling. This side, Turkey, is the Grealish role, and his player instructions from the winger role. We've got dribble more, creating those 1v1s. Little dinks at the far post, super good at cutting in his right foot, and that little dink to the right. England need that in the World Cup. For me, Jack Grealish has to go to the World Cup for that scenario where teams are parking the bus the last 10 and we need that little dink at the back stick. Playing against a low block, I think he's one of the best. My opinion. Dribble more, as I said, passing strategy standard. Poacher, Haaland, left completely blank. Right, team instructions. Been fiddling with it with pre-season, but this is what we've gone with. So shorter passing to retain those good passing numbers, possession numbers, standard tempo, get that lovely build-up because of the standard tempo, so we're not wasting time. Attacking transition, hold shape. We have seen the counter-attacks. Remember the De Bruyne, Reinders goal to Haaland. That was a little bit of a counter-attack, so it still works when there's space in behind, but naturally you're going to dominate the game, so you're not going to get a lot of that. What we don't want is winning the ball quite high and then just quickly trying to play the ball forward. I think Manchester City will try and keep possession much wider. Let's get those wingers wide, really stretch the pitch out. Helps when you're playing up against that low block. Play through, build-up strategy, obviously. Both flanks, underlapping runs. We saw a goal against Crystal Palace for Silva. You think De Bruyne getting into them areas, Gundogan getting into those areas as well. Even John Stones getting into those areas. Check out the highlights from the Champions League final. And patience working to the box. Now, the out of possession, as I said, super simple. Team shape, out of possession, just a 4-1-4-1. Get your goalkeeper sweeper keeping. Rodri the DM as a CDM. A screening midfielder, and then wide midfielders pull back for Foden and Cherki. You could maybe go one to an outlet. I don't mind having one as an outlet. They do come back in and help the team, but just stay in a really nice position. I don't like them up there, outlets, because they stay too high. But if you want to do that and have another attacking outlet, by all means change it to pressers. I just think because it was De Bruyne and Silva maybe was quite good at it, but I don't kind of regard them as really good pressers. So we'll leave that off. And then if you wanted to do one for Haaland, you could probably go central outlet, but I've seen no need to do it. Into the team instructions, high press, high line, but not super high. Standard on the trigger press because it was a little bit less chaotic. You know, the days of the Pep Guardiola 5 seconds is not as prevalent as what it was. Defensive transition counter press, so we still got it in a little bit. Trap outside, short distribution, stay high with that. Prevent short passes, go long. You know, you've got Stones, Ruben, Diaz, Ake, Rodri, some kinds. I think Akanji played in the Champions League final instead of Walker as well. So encouraging the ball to go long, that's what you want when you've got big centre halves. High line, step up more as well. So we're being still quite aggressive, but not over the top. That is Manchester City's treble winning tactics on Football Manager 26. Let me know what you think to the advanced centre-back version rather than the DM version. Let me know your thoughts. I said, for me, advanced centre-back needs to be when you want a centre-back stepping into midfield from maybe a back three, maybe that middleman, leave you two defenders to stay deep, maybe ball-playing defenders, advanced one stepping in. If you want to create the Man City build-up, you've got to go with that DM in possession, centre-back out of possession. Thanks for watching. Check out that Patreon. We'll see you tomorrow.